Okay, let us start. Is the slide is visible? Slide is visible, Harshvardhan?
Yes, sir.
Just so last time, so discussing fiber bracketing, we have discussed it. I'm audible, na? I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Uh, so fiber bracketing, we have seen it. Once again, have a quick review. It's the most important component in optical modern day optical communication systems. I mean optical network. Right. There are a lot of applications are there. Mostly it is used for add-drop multiplexings. It is based on this the conventional gating principle. You see, it is shown here the reflection gating. I told you reflection gatings, and here the gating equation. It is a conventional ones. Gating equations where lambda capital lambda is a gating period. Gating period is shown here, right? And this is a gating equation, but when it is used as a Bragg gatings, then the different orders, I mean, there are only plus minus first order will be there. In general, in a gating, there will be several orders will be there. But in if it is a fiber Bragg gating, if it's a Bragg gating, I mean Bragg gating, not only fiber, but any fiber, any Bragg gating, Bragg condition is satisfied, then only plus minus one order will be there, right? So lot of advantages I told you last time. Mostly it is used for DWDM applications, dense urban Gibson multiplexings. Right. I told you one it is as add-drop multiplexers. Last time you have seen it. So it can be fabricated either using mask technique or interference technique. Here it is shown the interference technique to UV lasers, ultraviolet lasers are are I mean are used to interfere at certain portion of the optical fiber. So there'll be dark by fringe pattern will be there. Accordingly, refractive index of the core. This is a fiber. This is a fiber. So refractive index of the core will be modified. You can see somewhere it will be high intensity, somewhere low intensity. In the high intensity regions, more refractive, a certain refractive index will increase because of the cross linking of the bond, right? In the presence of UV lasers. UV lasers means it is 244 nanometers, you can say UV lasers. Right. So in this way, you can have refractive index modulations, sinusoidal modulation is there, then you can write these equations. So this is somewhere in the lower figure, it is shown it how the refractive index variation is here. Right. Now, in this fiber, if you use a broadband source, then a particular wavelength will be reflected back. That will satisfy the Bragg conditions. Other wavelengths will be transmitted. For other wavelengths, it will be act as a window. And what is the Bragg conditions? From the gating equations, if it is for plus minus 1 watt, then actually under phase matching conditions, this Bragg wavelength lambda Bragg can be obtained. It is twice in effective times capital lambda. This capital lambda is the gating period. This is the effective refractive index. When you have seen during fabrication, refractive index will increase. So that increasing refractive index, that is called effective refractive index. And this times you see peak reflectivity of that particular wavelength, it is hyperbolic tan square into k, so k the coupling coefficient. For sinusoidal modulation, this k can be this value, right? And this eta, that is a fraction of light that contains in the core. This eta, it depends upon this the V number of the fiber. So these are the important relations, parameters when you use the fiber brackettings, right? And you see the applications here. You see, if a broadband source is used, then just I mentioned a particular wavelength will be reflected back depending upon these conditions, depending on the period and ineffectives. A particular wavelength will be reflected back, other wavelengths will be transmitted. Right, these things we have seen just now. And the applications is you see here is a drop wavelength. First here several wavelengths are there. This is a circulator. This is a 3-port circulator. Circulator can be 3-port, can be 4-port, can be 6-port. Like these 3-port, 6 ports are there. So 3 ports are more common. But the characteristics of the circulator is it will allow light in only one direction. So it is clockwise. So when you launch light in the port once, it will not go in this direction. It will only allow the light in this direction only, and light will be coming out from the port 2. So if you place a fiber bracketing here, then depending upon the conditions, say a particular wavelength, say here is lambda 2 will be reflected back, and again from the port 3, it will be coming out. So that is a drop wavelength. Other wavelengths will be transmitted as such. Right. So that is the drop wavelength. Drop wavelength. I mean, you can say this is the demultiplexer. So several circulators are there. Then you can have demultiplex wavelengths. Here you can see add drop multiplexer. You can add some wavelength. You can drop some wavelengths. So here you can see in the same way. Say if the gettings are there, the 3 wavelengths. Say lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3. 3 wavelengths are dropped here in this. Here means you can vary the capital lambda gating period. So single gating can reflect, but one at a time, on or depending on the period. So it can reflect any wavelengths in that range that will satisfy the back conditions. Not only a particular wavelength, but other wavelengths can also reflect depending on the period. There is a tunables. So here it is 3 wavelengths. So 3 gettings are there. 3 gettings will reflect 3 wavelengths. And also another say here it is dropped, but another 3 wavelengths can be added here. So they will reflect from these gettings, right? And light will be reflected back from this gating, and it will enter into circulator. Ultimately, you'll get in the output port these added wavelengths. So that is the most important application of fiber bracketings. That is add drop multiplexings. Right, whole thing can be a single component for drop wavelengths and for add wavelengths. And there is some examples I have shown you last time. So you can see this is a great three-dimensional pictures, and I just show you last times how the wavelengths are reflected back. You can see it here. A particular blue wavelength is reflected. But if the periods are changing, other wavelengths can also be. You can see other wavelengths are also. If periods are varying, so other wavelengths are can be reflected back. So here it is red is reflected. So depending on the period, so periodicity has been changed, right? It can be different types. Can be normal gettings, long period gettings, can be sharp getting, can be superstructure gettings, right? Superstructure getting most important in the sense here for sensing applications. It can be used as a multi-parameter sensing. At a time, it can sense more than one parameters at a time. So generally, sensors are there for a particular measurement, but here this getting can be used as a multi-parameter sensing. Arrayed waveguide gettings we have seen this also last times. This can also be as a router, multiplexer, demultiplexer, add-drop multiplexer also. Here is based on Mach-Zehnder interferometers. You have seen it. Last time we have discussed it. It consists of 2 star couplers, and in between waveguides are there. They will form the Mach-Zehnder. So it's a based. This is the Mach-Zehnder principles. 2 couplers are there, and there is a closed loop is there, right? So if you launch light here, then you will get an interference pattern at the output ports, right? So that is the Mach-Zehnder. It's the same as the Mach-Zehnder principles, Mach-Zehnder interferometer. So there can be several such Mach-Zehnders can be there, right? So it can be used as a multiplexer. You can demultiplexers. So multiplexer it is when the input is N output is 1, right? That is a multiplexer. Demultiplexer just reverse. Input is 1 and output can be n, right? So that is the demultiplexer multiplexers. And for routings can be any input or any output. All right. And this is a principle. It actually star coupled act as a lens. You see, one side there's input output waveguides are there, and the other side, sorry, input output waveguides. I mean, coming out, and these are the waveguides. The two couplets, right? So it will act as a lens, and these the parameters are that this waveguide spacing and these are important things, right? These will determine the channel spacings. Channel spacing is delta lambda or delta nu, right? And path difference among these two for a particular Mach gender, path difference also will select a particular wavelengths. So that is delta L's. So it is based on actually angular dispersion, d theta by d nu. From this, you can find out the channel spacing. What will be the channel spacing for a particular array waveguide gettings? Also, it will be in terms of lambda. Also, you can find out. Another term is the free spectral range. You see, free spectral range that is actually indicates the period between two successive maxima. Free spectral range. So that is actually these expressions where theta I and theta 0, the diffraction angles in the input side and the output side. If they are across each other, if the two ports are across each other, then it will be simplified. Free spectral range, that will be C by Ng into delta Ng, the group repetitive index. That is actually you see, that is Nc minus lambda into dNc upon d lambda, group repetitive index. So these are the important parameters for array waveguide. These things we have discussed last time, so I'm just giving the touch of it. Next, you see another important parameters are used for haptic communications, an important component. So initially we have seen the couplers, 2x2 couplers, fiber couplers. Next, we have seen the 2x2 waveguide couplers. Next, we have seen the star couplers, M by N star couplers. Next, we have seen these fiber bracketings, array wave bracketings. Those things we have seen, right? And some other components are also there in optical fibers. These are optical amplifiers. The most important the component also in haptic link. Also, apart from this optical amplifier, there also there will be components like switching. Optical switching is here. Also, some converter is here. Present day communication also based on wavelength converter. Just like frequency reuse in mobile or wireless communications. So here you can see in optical amplifiers why we need optical, because you see we have repeaters. Suppose you have transmitter receiver. If the power is not sufficient at the receiver, then there is the option of repeaters. But if you use the repeaters, you see what are the components in repeaters. In the repeaters, generally you have to convert photon to electrical energy. Photon to electron conversion will be there because optical fiber signal is optical signals. So if you have a repeater, then you have to convert optical to electrical. Next, electrical, you see, you have to amplify the signals, right? And also, if you do the conversion, then you have to do the other things, the retiming, path shaping. These things are to be done, right, after the amplifications, right? And next, you see, you have to again convert into electrical to optical energy, right? And which will, that means you need repeater. So you need photoreactor, you need transmitter, you need amplifiers, electronic amplifier like this, retiming, path shaper, etc. So it is much more complex repeaters than for transmitter receiver, because all transmitter receiver would be there in a single chip, right? So it is much more complex, and it is complex and expensive, particularly for if you use the multi-wavelengths systems, more than one wavelength if you use WDM systems. So it will be highly expensive, these repeaters. Instead of these things, you see, you can use the optical amplifiers. So in optical amplifiers, there is no need of optical to electrical conversions. So that is a distinct advantage of these things. And it is not only useful, it is widely used in point-to-point links, but also it is used in multi-access networks. Multi-access networks for different applications like splitting losses, etc. Right. So there are a lot of applications are there in these optical amplifiers. It's all optical systems. There is no need of conversion from optical to electricals. We'll see what are the principles that we'll see. Before that, let us see the types of optical amplifiers. The optical amplifiers, it can be 4 types. It can be used as an inline amplifiers to compensate the fiber attenuation. Suppose a transmitter receiver is here, and in between the fiber dispersion is small, but the distance between transmitter and receiver will be determined by the attenuations. Right. So to increase the repeater spacing, then you have to use. I mean, you have to compensate the fiber attenuations. So otherwise, the distance between the transmitter and receiver will be less. Right. So the repeater spacings, the main limit for repeater spacing, main limitation is the fiber attenuations. And if you use these optical amplifiers, so this is optical amplifiers with certain gains, then you can compensate the attenuation or the loss, and you can then increase the distance between the transmitter and receiver. That is shown here. Say transmitter. This is the pulses, and after propagating certain kilometers, so it will be attenuated. You see, it will be attenuated. Next, if it is optical amplifier, we'll see how this is amplified. That we'll see it. It can be semiconductor optical amplifiers. It can be doped fiber amplifiers. Right. So some amplifiers are there. Then you see the pulse will be amplified, and you see, and it can be detected. It can be detected successfully in the receiver. So that is one application, inline amplifiers. It can also be used as a pre-amplifier. Pre-amplifier. In this case, you can see there is a transmitter, and sometimes source. In the transmitter, main component is the optical source, laser or LED or laser source. But the power of the source generally limited by the factory, by the vendors, right? So if the power is not sufficient, then the distance between transmitter and receiver also will be less. Even if you do not even if you use the other components like these ones, inline amplifiers, still you see, if you increase the power of the transmitter, then also you can apart from the first ones, you can also increase the distance between the transmitter receivers. Receiver, right? If you use pre-amplifier. No, this is the power amplifier, right? No, I'm asking this pre-amplifier. Actually, it is used just before the receiver, because after propagating certain distance, signal will be attenuated. Or what I mentioned just now, the generally transmitter power is limited. So to increase the transmitter power, you can use the optical amplifier just after the transmitter. So you see, pulse height will be more, and it can cover longer distance. The distance can be increased between the transmitter and receiver with this by the increase in the transmitter power with the help of these optical amplifiers. So these are, so it can be used as a inline amplifier, it can be as a pre-amplifier, it can be as a power amplifier. Also, it can be used as a booster amplifier. So you see, in the booster amplifiers, generally the network it is used. You see, generally in the if the pipe link it covers the several stations, then you need splitters. Powers, but once you do the splitter, then power splitting loss will be. You have seen this power splitting loss is here. So to compensate the loss, just before the splitter, you can use the optical amplifier. That time it is called booster amplifier to compensate the splitting loss. So that is the booster amplifier. Right. So there are 4 applications are there. Inline amplifier to compensate the attenuations. The pre-amplifier to increase the signal to noise ratio, power amplifier to increase the transmitter power, booster amplifier to compensate the splitting loss. The 4 applications are there. Now, what are the how this amplification occurs? That let us focus on that. Right. In fact, if you see the optical amplifiers, there are 2 types of optical amplifiers are there. So one is semiconductor optical amplifier, another is doped fiber amplifier. In semiconductor optical amplifiers, very similar to the lasing principle, but keep in mind, though it is based on semiconductor materials, but here it will not provide the coherent output. It will only amplify the signals. And in the second case, doped fiber amplifier, you see, in this case, a small portion of the fiber, if some dopings, if some dopants are used, like say rare earth elements, like say erbium, ytterbiums, praseodymiums, neodymiums, these rare earth elements are doped in a typical fiber, say glass fiber or fluoride-based fiber, then also you can have the applications. We'll see it, amplification mechanism in details. So in general, you see how light is amplified. You see these applications. Harshvardhan, I am audible? Harshvardhan?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
So this is the principle behind this, the optical amplifiers. You can see it here. There are 2 couplers are there at the both ends, the input end and the output end, and in between this optical amplifier is there. Optic medium, actually, this whole thing is actually optical amplifiers. So, but it will have some active mediums. Active mediums can be semiconductor, it can be optical fibers. So in this case, basic principle is, suppose a 1550 signal is coming in the incoming fibers. You have to, it is very attenuated signal, you have to amplify it. Whatever may be the cases, you have to amplify. Means inline power amplifier, etc. Whatever may be the cases, ultimately it will amplify. Right. So how it is, suppose in the there is active mediums, there will be either it can be semiconductor based or can be fiber based, and there will be a pump source. When you use the pump source, I mean, and the light signals, then the here within the active mediums, you see electrons will be excited in the upper energy state, right? And whenever so in the upper energy state, the population will be high, and in that case, if these incoming signals strikes these systems, then see excited electrons will be forced to make a downward transition. I mean, stimulated emission will occur. But keep in mind, it is not the coherent output like say laser, the laser device, right? But it will provide the amplifications, right? because through stimulated emissions. So in this way, but whenever stimulation occurs, the emitted photons will have the same energy, same phase as the incident photons. Right. Um, and you see, ultimately, the input signal will be amplified optical output. Generally, 3-5 compound semiconducting and semiconductor are used, just like lasers. We have seen these direct bandgap type semiconductors used, right? And they can work in the 1300 nanometer and the 1550 nanometers, right? For those cases, the attenuation is minimum. And if it is based on semiconductor, the active medium is semiconductor, 3-5 compound semiconductor, you see, then you can have, you see, it can be amplified in the 1300 nanometer or 1550 nanometers. But here, rapid gain response is here, 1 picosecond to 0.1 nanosecond in this range. Rapid gain response is here. But this also will have a disadvantage. Then if the rapid response is here, then gain can fluctuate and it will produce the crosstalk particularly when you use the several wavelengths. And crosstalk will be there for multi-channel systems. It is a broad spectrum wavelengths. So that is the drawback of these semiconductor optical. Though rapid gain response, it is in advantage, but disadvantage is its gain can fluctuate, and also there can be crosstalk when you consider the multi-wavelength operations, right? But those problems can be overcome if you consider doped fiber amplifiers. Doped means say EDFA, erbium doped fiber amplifier. Here this on example doped fiber EDFA, erbium doped fiber amplifier, EDFA, or you can say EDFA, right? Erbium doped fiber amplifier. And what are the rare elements used for doping? Either erbium ions or ytterbium ions. If it is in the 1550 nanometer regions, but if it is lower than this, say 1300 nanometers, in these regions, the neodymiums and praseodymiums, these are the rare elements that are used. Right. But if it's 1300 nanometers, you see neodymiums and praseodymiums, these two rarer elements are used. Right. But in this case, it is not silica fiber, glass fiber, silica fibers. Earlier it is silica fibers, but in this case, if it is 1300 nanometer, then these fiber would be of fluoride-based fiber. Fluoride glass, not the silica glass, right? So whatever be the case, whether it is fluoride based or silica based, the doped fiber amplifier, but the advantages of this doped fiber amplifier is this one: it will have very low coupling loss. That is because it is fiber; it's a kind of fiber, so coupling loss will be minimums for doped fiber amplifiers. Also, there will be very low dependence on the polarizations, and also it is immune to crosstalk and intermodulation distortions for multi-wavelength operations. Doped fiber amplifiers. But semiconductor amplifiers, the crosstalk, this will be more because of rapid Kira response. So an example is shown it here in the diagrams. Semiconductor optical amplifier, you see, it is very similar to this laser structure, T structure lasers. Here the 3 layers. You can see it here. the confinement, these are the confinement layers. Confinement layers, and the middle layer is the active layers. You can see middle layer active layers, right? Where the signal is amplified, and active regions. Others for metal contacts, substrate, heat sink, etc. Those things will be there, right? Lattice mismatch also. The extra layers are used. So in this case, you see it here in the active regions, input signal is coming from this side, and here through the stimulation process, stimulation process, this the input signal will be amplified. Is amplified. You see, amplified in the sense that I just mentioned, when they, I mean, when semiconductors, because of the current, electrons will be excited in the upper register, means they have conduction band. And next, when there is a transitions from the higher energy to lower energy, then there will be emission of photons. Then photons will be same as the incident photons. So ultimately, it will be amplified. Input signal will be amplified. So that is the principle of semiconductor optical amplifiers. Of course, this semiconductor optical amplifiers, it can be two types. It can be Fabry-Perot amplifiers, or it can be traveling wave amplifiers. Fabry-Perot amplifiers, very similar to these, the lasers. Here you see, there can be reflections. There can be internal reflections in Fabry-Perot amplifiers. But in traveling wave amplifiers, there will be no reflections. It is a single pass amplifier, single pass. And you see, a single pass, how a single pass can be obtained. If anti-reflection coating is provided at both the ends, then it will be a single pass optical amplifiers. And if you use these traveling of amplifiers, you can have a lot of advantages, like you can have large optical bandwidth, you can have high saturation power, you can have low polarization sensitivity. So these are the advantages you can have it if it is traveling wave amplifiers. I mean, single pass amplifier. Right. So these are the characteristics of traveling wave amplifiers and semiconductor optical amplifiers. In traveling wave amplifiers, it's a single pass optical amplifiers. Only once light will travel from one side to the other side. But in the Fabry-Perot type semiconductor amplifiers, that times light can be reflected back, right? But it do not provide the coherent output. It is the incoherent output. And that keep in mind. So you can also estimate this gain if you know the rate equations. For a little bit theory also should be known. These rate equations. Rate equation for external pumpings. Suppose if external pumping is here, external pumping can be using current or optical beams like these things, but there are pump source that I've shown you. So the rate equations can be written in this case, very similar to lasers. There'll be pumping rate because of say general lamp, piton lamps, we use it. Then or can be current through. There will be a pumping rate, RPT. Say for current semiconductor case, it will be J by QD, number of carriers injected. J is the current density, right? So RPT equals J by QD, and RST is stimulated emission, and this NT by tau R, this indicates the spontaneous rate. You see rate equations in terms of spontaneous rate. This is the pumping rate. This is the pumping rate, that is J by QD, and this is the stimulation emission rate, stimulated emission rate. And this emission rate can be expressed as this gamma A Vg n minus n threshold into n. It depends upon this input, the photon density. It depends upon this the groove velocity, and this is the gain factor, and A the gain controls. Right. In threshold, the threshold the carrier density. Right. So you see, so RST, this can be expressed nearly equal to some factors are small. You see, it can be expressed as G. All the constant factors can be expressed apart from G. All the constant factors can be replaced by small g. So it is small g Vg into n factorials, n photons, photon density. This is the photon density. So on parameters A, the gain control, Pg, the groove velocity, N, threshold current density, photon density, NPS, the photon density, and G is the gain factor, that is overall gain per unit lengths, right? G. And NPS, the photon density. How photon density is calculated? You see, photon, if you know the input signal power, say input signal power, that is PS, then PS by h nu, that will provide the number of photons incident. Number of photons incident, PS by h nu, right? So you want to calculate the photon density, photons per unit volumes. So if it is V is the groove velocity, that means if you consider say per second, 1 second, then you see Vg centimeter per second. So it will be Vg centimeters, right? It will be Vg. You can consider a cylinder of length Vg, right? Vg, the length into width, it is W, and thickness it is D. Then this will give you the volumes, right? Photon density per unit volumes, it will be, these are total volumes. So it will be PS divided by Pg into h nu into Wg, W into W into D. W is the width and D the thickness of the active layers. There are all active layers, right? So you can have the photon density. This is most important. You can calculate the photon density. Once you know the photon density, they can you can estimate the stimulated emission rate. Right. And in the steady state, this is the rate equation. So in the steady state, this you can consider dN amount dt equal to 0. And if you just put it, then Rp, and you see this this will be 0 in the steady state. So Rp will be equal to Rst plus n by tau r. That's what it is. You see it here. N by tau r. Now, if you substitute the values of Rp, that is actually J by Qd per semiconductors, and this Rst we have seen it is G Vg in pH, V is the velocity, Vg is the sum of the constant factors, NPH the photon density, plus N by tau r, that is actually the spontaneous emission rate. Spontaneous emission rate, tau, also the combinations, right? Spontaneously emission rate, N by tau r. So if you just solve it for G, then G primes will be equal to J by Qd minus N by tau r divided by these ones. So that will be nearly equal to G0, 1 plus NPH by N pH N photon saturate, right? Where G0 is a small signal gains in the absence of the signal input. When there is no signal input, that is the gain G0. So you see, with this, you can calculate also the gain factor G. gain of any amplifier, that is P output by P input. And for single pass gain, if you consider single pass gain, say doubling wave amplifier, then this gain equal to exponential gamma GM minus alpha 1 times L. Just now I've shown you, just we have seen this this gain gain factor, we have seen it, right? G equal to G0 by something is it here, this G0 by these ones, right? So this G, the gain, output gain of amplifier, that can be, it is exponential gamma factor into GM. GM means it is material gain coefficient minus alpha bar absorption coefficient times L. That is actually exponential GZ into L. So GZ is the overall gains, this minus absorptions. So that is the overall gains. Overall gains. L, the amplitude length of the amplitude. So indicates that for optical amplifier, gain will increase with the increase in the length. But that is not true all the times. If the length, if the length increases, so one time will reach when there will be no excited carriers in the high energy state. So even the input level is increasing, but there is no excited carriers at the upper energy state, so gain will fall. So it seems gain will increase exponentially, but after certain time gain will fall. I'll just show you the gain curves next time. Any today this much. Next time we'll see it. The actual gain. This gain can be expressed in terms of these ones. G, actually it is saturated the power by the input power times the log of G0 by G. Right, and this curve will get it. I mean, input gain versus input signal power, I can have it. That we'll see next times. So today it is much. Up to rate equations is okay. Up to rate equations, we can have this G gain, that is actually G0 by this one, where G0 is a small signal gains, and there is no signal. And that signal still will get some gains, right? So that is G0. Anyway, here are the important parameters for optical amplifier. Ultimately, we'll see what is the overall gains. These are internal gains. These are the internal gains, right? So overall gain we'll see in the next times. We have started these ones. I'm not completed. You see this P output by P input. Next time we'll see it. And after this, we'll see the EDFA, how fiber load fiber amplifier you can have the amplification of light. Anyway, today this much. किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन है तो पूछो.
No, sir.
Question?
No, sir. Clear, sir.
Okay, then you'll prepare for quiz at 7:30 p.m. in the evening. Okay, I think no need of writing this WhatsApp. So you convey these things to all others.
Yes, sir. I told the group section and second section, both the students I told, sir, about this.
7:30 to 8, half an hour. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, please could you upload yesterday's slides, sir? I was sick, so I could not join yesterday in the second half.
Yesterday.
Yes, sir. The last class.
Last class. Okay. I have repeated. I think if I uploaded this one, this contains this fiber bracketing also. Anyway, here in the beginning, I have repeated all those things. Right? Multiplexer and this fiber bracketing. So these things I've discussed last times. So if I upload it, I think it will serve your purpose.
Yes,
right?
sir. Thank you, sir.
So this will upload it. Okay then.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.